Good evening and welcome to another edition of the Opening Kick on a very special Monday night. We've got a special guest with us tonight. We're kind of excited, so we're going off of our very new format real quick, but hopefully it's going to be a good show and an exciting one for you Tide and Wisconsin fans out there. But look, enough of that. Let's get started. I'm excited. As always, I got my all-star panel with me. I got UA sign girl below me, Hannah Stevens. How are you doing tonight, Miss Hannah?
Good. How are y'all?
Awesome. And as always, the minister, Gerald Smoke Dixon. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing well. That's the first time I've been ordained, but I'll take it though.
Well, dude, you've been ministering me on all my dumb picks for the last few weeks.
Yeah.
And as always, I'm Daniel Petty, and I'm here to hopefully bring y'all a fantastic show. But before we get to our special guest from Wisconsin, I do want, we got to pay a little bills around here. I want to give a special shout out to our sponsor, Limestone Company. Have you ever dreamed of having beautiful natural stone in or around your home? Well, don't settle for subpar materials. Check out Limestone Company's selection of natural stone products to meet all your project needs. Limestone is located in Aniana, Alabama, and is one of the oldest, most trusted sources in the state. So contact them today. Tell them we sent you and use the code THESTANDARD to get 10% off your purchase. 10% off stone. Pretty good deal. Also, one more thing real quick. Title Towel is giving away a free title towel tonight to one of our guests. So whoever is the best guest tonight, our guest in the post section, get lively and you will get a free title towel sent to you at the end of the show. So get live in that comment section. But that's enough for me. We've got a very special guest coming with us tonight from Locked On Badgers, Ryan Harings. Man, without further ado, bringing him to the stage. Ryan, how you doing, sir?
Man, I'm doing so good. Humbled to be here. Thank you for reaching out, and let's talk football.
No, I'm excited. And look, I just did a show with Ryan a few minutes ago on his network that I think will be airing sometime tomorrow. So check that out as well. But hey, let's get this party started. And I'm going to start with Miss Hannah. I think she's got a few questions for you and going to put you on the hot seat quick.
All right, Ryan. So let's kind of discuss this a little bit. Wisconsin 2-0. Okay. Have two pretty impressive matchups so far. You have one of the teams that I kind of have always liked is because my friend went there, Western Michigan, but also South Dakota. Okay. Two teams that are not the same caliber teams like Alabama, but the important thing to note is they're still 2-0. Okay. Some other teams in the SEC even are not 2-0. So that's something to be impressed about. But 2-0 start. But the thing to note is that you have Alabama this week and USC next week. So before we dive into this game, how is Wisconsin going to shift gears from kind of these cupcake type matchups to having Alabama for the third time? This is the third time they've ever faced the Crimson Tide. I believe the first one was like 1920 something, I think.
We weren't even live.
Yeah, none of us were. 28. And then 2015, where I was there. Okay, I was there in Arlington, Texas. It was a fantastic matchup. But the third time, Alabama, Wisconsin's beating. Before we dive into that game, what is Wisconsin going to do to be able to transition from these teams to now facing two top 15 teams back-to-back weeks?
Yeah, that's a tremendous question. And I think anybody who tells you with certainty what they're going to do is probably lying a little bit because we don't really know, right? And you've hit on it. There's a lot of teams, a lot of pedigree teams that have either struggled through the first 2 weeks. You mentioned a couple SEC teams, but you throw Notre Dame in that mix. You can throw Oregon in that mix. For 3.5 quarters last week, you could throw Bama in that mix, right? Yeah. And I think a lot of teams are still trying to find footing. And I don't even know if we mentioned on the show we just did, Daniel, but I think that's a takeaway from this portal era where there is a lot more turnover. There's teams that lack cohesion. There's teams fitting a bunch of new pieces in. I don't think Badger fans have a great feel for who we are yet through 2 games. So it's difficult to know how you're going to transition because there's no doubt about it. Bama's coming. Great, we're 2-0. Bama's coming. And Badger fans have circled this. They know it. They know Bama's pedigree. Wisconsin is a football state. They understand what's coming to Camp Randall on Saturday. We're excited for it. We've been excited for it for years. But I don't fully know what it's going to look like from Wisconsin. And the last part I would say is, you never really know when you have those couple games how much is being held back, right? If the Wisconsin South Dakota game from last week was the Super Bowl, Wisconsin has more up their sleeve than what they showed. Sure. But how much more? Like, what else is there? So I think Wisconsin has kept some under the hood, just as I'm sure Alabama has, knowing that Wisconsin and maybe more importantly Georgia is on the horizon. but they're going to have to transition quickly because there were holes, and I'm sure we're going to get into them, exposed through those first 2 weeks. Can we close those, and what else is on like under the hood, like I said, is a valid question.
Yeah. And, let's just transition to this Saturday's game. I mean, one of the big things that Wisconsin has in their favor is home field advantage, right? So what are some key things that we can look for? What is Wisconsin going to have to do to possibly stun the Crimson Tide on the road? I mean, I'll just say this. If one thing's for certain this college football season, nothing is out of question, okay? Mm-hmm. Nothing. I mean, who would have thought that the team that bellyached about not being in the playoff would lose back-to-back games? I mean, I did, but and who knew that Vanderbilt would go 2-0 so far?
Here we go.
Just kidding. But anyway, all that to say, Rod, what's Wisconsin going to have to do besides have their home field advantage to try to stun the Crimson Tide in Wisconsin?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think there's two things that jump out immediately. The first is they got to be able to be stout in the trenches. They have to be able to stand up defensively, especially in the run game. Wisconsin traditionally has been, if you look back the last 5, 6, 7 years, really good against the run defensively. The linebackers they put into the NFL, they've had stout defensive lines. Jim Leonard was the coordinator. Prior to that, it was Dave Aranda. They've been really good. And last year and this year, it's been slipping, right? The defensive line talent isn't quite there. There were moments against just straight zone blocking. South Dakota just washed Wisconsin's defensive line out of the play. The cutback lane was there. Linebackers weren't there to fill. That's a major concern. And then you look at this Bama team with a two-headed monster at running back. I love both those guys. Watching film on them this week, that's a huge concern. And I'm not sure if Wisconsin can hold up in the trenches. So that's first and foremost. They're probably going to have to bring guys into the box. They're probably going to have to play a little heavier than they want to, play a little more island coverage on the sides. That's the first one. The second one is they got to play clean. This is a game where, quite frankly, if it's a game in the fourth quarter when Alabama's on the road, nobody's going to be shocked. But to pull this game out, Wisconsin has to be +1 in the turnover battle, maybe +2. They have to get a special teams play. So those little things in the games, right, where Alabama has had 20 penalties for the first 2 games, Wisconsin has to be clean in that aspect. Wisconsin has to be clean in the turnover aspect. Wisconsin muffed a punt last week. That can't happen against Bama. So stop the run, or at least limit it, right? Make Bama have to do a few things differently and then play clean football. I think those are the keys.
Well, Ryan, let's get a little bit more deeply into this game plan and executing it for both teams. So let's start out first with Wisconsin's offense versus Bama's defense.
Hey, Gerald, Can I stop you real quick?
Go ahead.
I hate to do this momentum and stop a question, but we do have 2 super chats we got to get to when these guys are sending the love. Look, we got 2 guys that are already fighting for that title towel. We got 2 leaders in the clubhouse. Mr. Jimmy Clay came out and saw us at the Bryant Museum this Friday night. It's always an honor to see one of the greatest Bama fans and one of the #1 fans of the Bama Standard Network. Mr. Jimmy Clay dropping that $20 on us. Jimmy, you the man, buddy. Also, not to be okay, Justin, will you hit the button? I'll quit hitting it. I'm out. I'm not touching it. We're playing a game. Keith Holcomb. Me and Justin, we're going back and forth this end. Keith Holcomb with the $4.99 super chat saying we are still rolling. Keith, thank you for that super chat. Y'all keep it rolling. Man, we'll see. Keith, we're going to have to roll it up to Wisconsin, and I think that offensive line might need to get a little better, but I'm turning it over to my man Smoke to get this show rolling.
So as we continue the conversation, the Wisconsin offense versus the Bama's defense. I'm 43 years old. I'm not afraid to share my age. And I understand what old school Wisconsin offense looked like with Ron Dane, Jonathan Taylor, just running backs and running the ball 80 to 20% of the times in terms of 80 run, 20% pass. If a Wisconsin quarterback threw the ball for more than 25 times, the probably place will be jumping around and understanding like what just happened. So you shared that they struggled against the run. Just because they don't run the ball anymore. You are what you are. You defend the run, you know how to stop the run. Now that they're going to more of a 50-50 balance attack, open up a little bit where they're open personnel, 10 personnel, 11 personnel, open sets, 2x2. They get back in some of old school Wisconsin running formation. But can Wisconsin protect the quarterbacks? First question. And second, can the quarterback protect the ball against the other teams? Because we know Tyler Van Dyke is known and is prone to turning the ball over, the last spot that he was at.
Yeah, both great questions. It is a big transition, right? Last year, Longo came in and opened it up, played more of an air raid. Those tackles struggled. Early season last year, they played Washington State on the road. They lost that game partially because the left tackle couldn't hold up. So it's better this year. Those tackles, they're both veteran tackles. Riley Mallman and Nelson are the 2 guys. big, long. They are the traditional size of Badger offensive linemen, and now they have a year in that system. So I think it's better, but we really, and I say Wisconsin hasn't been challenged to see if they can hold up against an elite front seven. They played Western Michigan, they played South Dakota, and quite frankly, there weren't a lot of 5-step, dropping back 7-step, really trying to see if that protection will hold up. So I don't know, and I'll tell you, I don't think a lot of coaches know because they haven't been tested in that set. Wisconsin has been running a little bit of 12 personnel last week. They rolled out 2 tight ends, trying to, I think, be a little more physical at the point of attack. So Longo's definitely about opening it up, but you are going to see some 2 tight end sets as they try to run the ball. They still want to be physical in the sense of, you remember some of the Urban Meyer power spread stuff.
Oh, yeah.
They want to be kind of physical in that sense, where they're still able to dictate to the defense. But whereas traditional Wisconsin teams, and you mentioned it, the 80-20 split, when they were playing a team that could really hold the line of scrimmage, Wisconsin didn't have a counterpunch traditionally.
Correct.
Like, that was it. So what Longo in this offense, if it's running correctly, what they want to be able to do is, all right, you're loading up. We still want to run the ball, but now we can counterpunch you. Now we can go 10 personnel. Now we can go, hit a slot receiver on a post route. But it hasn't been consistent. To your second point with Tyler Van Dyke, can he protect the ball? I got to be honest, he hasn't thrown an interception this year through 2 games. There were a couple plays in that first week against Western Michigan where it should have been a pick. Like, stats can be misleading.
Right.
I don't think he's suddenly. I always say this, man. If it looks like a duck and it quacks like a duck, don't call it a dinosaur. Like, Van Dyke is still a guy who's going to put the ball in harm's way. That's just who he is. That's who he's been for 4 years. So, no, I don't think it's going to be super clean. I do think he gives Wisconsin an element of being able to push the ball downfield that they haven't traditionally had. And Wisconsin fans are hoping that they can see that this weekend because they haven't seen it through the first 2 weeks.
Right. And just being a traditionalist and understanding what brand wins in certain places. I remember when Rich Rodriguez went to Michigan and tried to open it up. No bueno, because it's hard to recruit to places like Wisconsin to play that type of football. And also weather doesn't tell you and allow you to do that for the most part. Majority of the time when Wisconsin's rolling, their offensive lineman is from Wisconsin. The running backs want to go there because they want to run the ball. And they're okay with beating teams 20-14 and just physically grounding it out and winning games. I just think it's when you have new fashion coaches that come in that want to change the place, it takes a little bit of time to do that. And I think Wisconsin is battling that right now with identity as you watch film, because those offensive linemen, they're good at one thing, downhill and knocking guys off the ball. Now, Bama has some guys that can put them on the edge and isolate them. Now you're playing in the hands of the way that Alabama wants to play the game in an open, speed, power type of game. But they can do that because that's what they do.
Yeah, it's a great point. And I do think it's really well said. Wisconsin is a bit of an identity crisis, it feels like. And yeah, I think Wisconsin fans thought it would click a little quicker. We were watching last week against South Dakota, and Wisconsin's first couple drives looked great. They were utilizing RPO action. They hit CJ Williams, or a USC transfer from last year, down the easy touchdown. And then for between the second into the third quarter, it felt like they tried to go back to a different version of Wisconsin. All right, now let's lean on the run game a little bit. And then Van Dyke lost his rhythm, and they couldn't shift back out of it. It feels like Phil Longo is still kind of looking for it, and he hasn't fully found it yet. And some of that's quarterback driven, right? Like, it's a lot easier to find that when you have the right quarterback. And I don't think Van Dyke is not Drake May. Yeah, right. It just is what it is. So they're searching at quarterback, and they're searching for some identity and consistency on the offensive end. I think that's really well said.
Right. And if we can, let's flip it over and go Bama's offense versus Wisconsin's defense. And when you look at the Wisconsin defense, I believe they can put some edge pressure on Bama with number 17. I think he gives you an opportunity to do that. And I'm talking about Darrell Peterson. I think he has the ability, and Bama's shown that our right tackle is not secure yet. That left tackle spot, if Proctor comes back and play, you'll be okay. But Booker showed you the ability to operate in a box, but not in space. And when I've been in the Big Ten is speed to power league. They're going to take 75 and walk them back into the quarterback. And Bama's receiver play and passing game is not up to par where you have to say, I'm going to load the box up. So it's really become a quarterback-driven run team that I don't know if Wisconsin can defend Jalen Milroe's quarterback run game and RPO action, but I can see them loading the box in making Bama pass the ball against them and force them to. And I don't believe Bama has that type of talent yet or executed at the passing game at a high enough rate to scare Wisconsin.
Yeah, I think that's the matchup, right? It's can Wisconsin stop the running game? To do that, I think they have to load up. I think they're going to have to walk Hunter Wooler, their tremendous safety, into the box, or someone else. Maybe it's Preston Zachman, another safety they have. And then can they hold up on the edges? Let's talk about those edges you talked about. Let's talk Daryl Peterson, the pass rusher, the outside linebacker. Another guy I would throw out there for Bama fans to keep an eye on, John Pius. Pius is a guy at the FCS level, but he's
William Mary.
Yep, William and Mary. Good job. And he's kind of a freak athletically. He runs over 20 miles an hour. You talk to people in the program, and they are very, very high on his ability as a pass rusher. Not as much setting the edge, right? There's a big adjustment coming from that level to this level, and then now set the edge against a tackle. But to your point, if they can force Bama by loading the box into some longer second and third down situations, then they can unleash some of the outside linebackers they're very high on. They have a couple inside guys they like a lot as well. Tackett Curtis from USC coming over, Christian Allegro, a young guy to keep an eye on. That's the whole game plan, right? Can Wisconsin hold up well enough to force Bama into situations where Bama becomes one-dimensional? Because if Bama is getting the RPO action going, if Milroe's running, if he's getting to the second level, I just don't know how Wisconsin holds up. Then you get them on their back foot. Then they have to start run blitzing, and then you open up all sorts of stuff back behind those run blitzes. So I think you're 100% correct. That's the name of the game. Can Wisconsin hold in the run game? If they can, I do think they can exploit. If the tackles are a little iffy, I do think they have the outside linebackers to exploit that.
Yeah, I agree with you.
I think you need to add one thing that we've missed is making Jalen Milroe forcing him to turn over the ball, because that's been a huge issue too, is lack of ball security. And I know Kalen DeBoer has talked about how they focus it on Tuesdays. Clearly once a week's not enough for these guys, because it's like the dadgum ball is covered in Crisco. So if your defensive line can not only create one-dimensional ball for Jalen Milroe, but also cause him to create turnovers, then it's going to be a whole different ball game. Sorry, I just wanted to add that because
that's 100% dead on. But when you look at majority of Jalen's turnovers, majority of his turnovers comes off of when he's trying to do too much.
Yep.
When he plays within the system of saying, okay, 1, 2, third read, fourth read, there goes your hot, he's more successful. When he gets into the moment of panic,
score,
trying to do more than what the play calls for, which he has that ability, that's where you see him start getting lax with the ball, and he's not up in the pocket with both hands on the ball. Ball security comes where the ball is out. And yes, that's when the turnovers typically occur.
I'd like to add something and see if you can answer this, Ryan. And it's something that kind of parlays on what you and Smoke both mentioned. I agree. I think there's a little bit of an identity crisis on the offense, and a little bit for Alabama right now, because they're not running the offense they would like to, because the offensive line didn't give them the ability last week. But on the flip side, and we talked about this on your show a little bit ago, Phil Longo comes into a system that Smoke clearly pointed out that's been predicated on the run pretty much our entire life, from Ryan Dane to Taylor, and so many more in between that we're not given appropriate due. And then you get someone like Phil Longo, who runs a spread offense that's different than even traditional spreads. He doesn't have a passing tree. He has wide receivers run into space and quarterbacks that can recognize soft spots in the zone and throw to those space. That requires a continuity between the quarterback and receiver that's built off years of practice. And when you're in a new era where you've got quarterbacks like Van Dyke coming in after 1 year, he's had 4 weeks of practice with these receivers. To run an offense with that type of sophistication and continuity required, man, it seems like it. I don't know. I question, can it work? But on the flip side, I was sitting in the stadium Saturday night, and South Florida had receivers that were open. Byron Brown couldn't hit them. If Byron Brown was accurate, that game Saturday night looks a whole lot different. Bama's playing catch up in the fourth quarter, because there was 2 or 3 plays in a row that they had wide receivers 10 yards behind the backs, and Brown just couldn't hit them. There was other out routes that he just couldn't hit. So my question, it seemed like y'all abandoned like Van Dyke in the past, but is there an ability to take advantage with this type of offense when Alabama showed on film an ability to get open in the secondary?
So yes, there is. And you made a great point about the continuity, right? The receiver quarterback relationship, because week 1 there was a seam route. TVD, Tyler Van Dyke had Will Pauling, who's Wisconsin's best receiver. If Pauling had just kept going, it's a touchdown. Instead, Pauling sat it down. He had a different read. the two are not on the same page. That's happened a couple times through 2 games. So that's dead on point, and that their chemistry in that relationship is still being built. And for Bama fans, it's important to understand that Van Dyke didn't even win the starting job fully until a couple weeks into fall camp. So it's not even as if he was getting number 1 reps all the way through fall camp. There was a battle there with Braden Locke. So there's still continuity building there. Can Wisconsin take advantage? Yes, because and we've seen this in spatterings for 2 weeks, when Tyler Van Dyke is on point, he's made several NFL throws already. He had week 1 across the hashes to Trech Kahuna. A couple really, really just gorgeous lasers across the middle, threading it in between defenders. It's not windows. When he's on point, he's threading into portholes. Like, he is putting the ball where only the receiver can get it, to Bryson Green. So that ability is there. But it comes down to protecting him. It comes down to getting him comfortable. And it goes back to Longo, to our point of getting into a rhythm where the offense feels like it's a cohesive, consistent thing. And Wisconsin hasn't been able to do that yet. But he has the arm talent to beat any secondary. And Wisconsin has a couple slot receivers. I've mentioned Will Pauling, really, really good player. Explosive north and south, good hands, super tough. One of those tough, little physical guys. Trech Kahuna is a guy that Badger fans have been buzzing about for really 2 years. Got on the field a little bit last year. He was hurt at the start of last year. Explosive player. A little raw. Not on the same page at all times with Tyler Van Dyke. But there is a reason they're using him on kickoff returns. There's a reason they were trying to give him the ball. They had him in the backfield a little bit week 1. So keep an eye on Trech Kahuna. There's a lot of Badger fans who think the reason we haven't seen a lot of them is because Wisconsin and Longo have been saving some packages for Bama with Kahuna.
Being a once Division I AA coach, I used to hate that phrase when coaches always say, you know what, I'm saving this for the next opponent. Your job as a coach is to win the game. So by any means necessary, all those hours that you spent in the office and not at home enjoying life, you shouldn't be holding back plays or looks that you don't want another opponent to get. I've always thought the more you throw at an opponent, the more they have to prepare for, the more ability that you have as a play caller to decide on what bag of tricks that you want to get into to get it going. But some people believe if you throw something out there brand new, it's going to magically appear and make sure that you can actually run it. But one of the things that Tyler Van Dyke's always struggled with is decision-making and being able to process pre-snap to post-snap reads. When he was at Miami, you'd see him throw some interceptions that'll make you just look at somebody like, why did he just throw that right to the linebacker that's sitting in that hole? And the more that he throws, the worse he gets. So I'm just in my head, I'm thinking that how many opportunities are you going to give him to actually give your opponent an the chance to get a turnover, either as a runner or even as a passer? Because decision making has always been his issue. His ability to play the game, never been that. He's always been uber talented. Talent is not the issue. It's what happens from the shoulders up. That's Tyler's been his issue. Just like Jalen Milroe, they're not the same guys, but the issues of their game is very, very close, of decision making and processing quickly to get the ball out of their hands to their playmakers.
Yeah, and let's be honest. There's a reason Tyler Van Dyke is still in college with an NFL arm, right? and that's why, right? Because if he didn't have those decision making issues, he would have been in the NFL 2 years ago. He has the arm talent.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Hannah has one more question before we kind of transition into a more personal side for the Bama fans that may be traveling up this Saturday.
Well, we kind of know what Fickle's comments are on this about the targeting call, but I wanted to make 2 points on this because, losing Jake Chaney is obviously a big deal for Wisconsin, especially when you lose in the first half of Alabama game. But I want to say one player that I feel like hasn't been talked about enough is Tackett Curtis, who I believe transferred from USC, actually. And for me, the way he stepped in was not only admirable, but it's kind of like an oh crap moment because he filled the shoes really well. And so much so that, maybe not hard, but I should say, but Chaney's going to have to fight to get that position back. So when you look at a guy like that stepped up, big moment, now has his opportunity to shine against Alabama, just talk about Curtis a little bit because, Alabama's done really well at picking up some good transfers in the portal. But for Curtis to come in that situation, do well, but also now getting his time to start against Alabama Crimson Tide. And we've talked about this before, smoke even, that it only takes a player even one game to make a name for themselves. How big of a game would this be for him, getting to fill the shoes of Chaney, who is ejected and is going to be out the first half of the Bama game?
Yeah, I love this question. Tackett was one of my favorite all-time high school films watching. Like he played at a small school in Louisiana, Manny High School. They lined him up like 9 yards off the line of scrimmage and just said, go hunt. And his was incredible. One of the top recruits in that class. Ended up, it was a recruiting battle between USC and Wisconsin the first time around. Ended up going to USC, started as a true freshman on a really bad defense. But again, started as a true freshman there and had some injury issues, came in, transferred in the offseason, followed USC's defense coordinator, Alex Grinch, who became Wisconsin's safeties coach. So kind of followed him, still dealt with some injury issues, but physically when he's ready, there's a reason every school in the country wanted this kid. Every school in the country. He's big, he's fast, sideline to sideline, physical player, kind of a throwback linebacker that just wants to get downhill and play violent football. He looked great. You're totally dead on, Hannah. He stepped in, and I thought, honestly, the defense got better when he was in there. Chaney is experienced. He has intangibles. He wears the green sticker. He's highly, highly respected, but Tackett athletically is a different deal when he's right. He just is. And sometimes, I mean, we've all watched football a lot. Sometimes better athletes just do things that, you just need better athletes.
Yeah,
and
it's easy to always say he's a good football player, but real good athletes can make up for a lot of mistakes.
Yep.
Somebody falls on the ground.
And Tackett has some of that juice. Now, still young, so he exploited maybe eye discipline in ways that Chaney probably couldn't. But if I'm going to be completely honest, Chaney and Jaheim Thomas, the inside linebacker duo, haven't played great to start the year. There's been some run fit issues anyway. So there is a line of reasoning, and Badger fans have kind of gone on board with this. If you're going to make some mistakes, do it with the young guy with more athleticism and upside.
And Ryan, not to keep on the personnel side of it, but just understand the Wisconsin defense for the last, counted 20 years. One thing that we could always count on: discipline, gap control, not back defensive linemen, linebackers coming downhill. It was never a concern about gap and run fits. This has only been an issue the last 2 years. And I always said, what you practice against and what you get good against, that's what you're going to be during the games. If you start going to a spread RPO system, most spread RPO teams struggle against making tackles and fitting downhill and playing physical line of scrimmage ball, unless you have difference makers like Urban had at Ohio State and Florida, which you can do that when you have tremendous athletes. But this is shocking for the last couple of years if I'm a Badger fan or just a Big Ten fan of understanding that type of brand that's being played in that conference. It's different.
Yeah, it's hard to watch. As a Badger fan, it's hard to watch. Like, it really is. Like, you go back to the South Dakota game last week, and South Dakota's a real FCS program. They really are.
I would never schedule them because you're going to get the hardest game.
None of the Dakotas. Don't schedule those nasty bastards. Shit.
100%. There's no upside to scheduling that team. If you win, it's a battle. If you lose, you get pillared for losing to an FCS team. Truth is, they're as good as most MAC schools. However, that being said, you still shouldn't get bodied by them if you're a Big Ten team. And first drive of that game, 4 plays, 74-yard drive, it was 4 runs.
Yeah, pushed around.
Like, that's not traditional Wisconsin football. The run fits have been really bad. But I would say it's the defensive line has been, I think, the bigger issue. You're right. Like, there's some techniques. I just think ultimately the biggest thing is they don't have a dude up front anymore. And for the longest time, Wisconsin's defensive talent has been super underrated. You look at the NFL linebackers, TJ Edwards, Ben Ginkle, Watt. Like Zach Bond. These are all Wisconsin guys that a lot of them were low-round picks, or TJ Edwards was undrafted. Leo Chanel's another guy. Like,
Bond got off yesterday. He can play. And I remember negotiating with TJ Edwards' agent to sign him at Buffalo 2018. I'm glad you brought those two names up. But that's just Wisconsin football. You didn't know about them until they showed up in the NFL, and you're looking at TJ Watt and saying, wow.
Oh, yeah, where did that stud come from? And I think that's a great segue to how Alabama, you asked me in our previous show, how do Alabama fans feel like about this game? And I want to kind of talk about that and get into more of that side of it, because it is a unique opportunity for a fan base that loves to travel to come to a very traditional football program that we don't ever get to go to. But before we do that, I want to give a little shout out to our boys at Title Towel, Whitwell Sports. If you are headed up to Madison this weekend for this very special game, go to whitwellsports.com and grab that title towel today and let those Badgers know who's coming from Tuscaloosa. Also, they are giving away a free title towel tonight for fan of the game. I'll be honest, or fan of the night. I'll be honest, Jimmy's the leader in the clubhouse right now, so you got a few minutes to step up your game and throw some punches, Bama fans. But with that said, go to Whitwell Sports. Get your title towel today. They are awesome, great supporters, great fans of our network here, and we love you, Whitwell Sports. With that said, we talked about this. Bama fans are a prideful bunch, but they're also a bunch that really loves college football and the uniqueness and the traditions. And like Hannah talked about, she got to go to that game a few years ago, but it was a neutral site game. How much cooler would it have been for Wisconsin to come to Tuscaloosa and them get to see what we're about? Like we're about to go get to see what Camp Randall's all about and get to, dude, I'm telling you, Alabama fans, if you don't jump around when you get the opportunity, shame on you. When that music pipes in the fourth quarter, I don't give a shit what the score is. Just start jumping because it's your chance. With that said, what traditions do Bama fans or the common fan maybe not know about Wisconsin that's really kind of damn cool that when we see it, we're got to be like, oh, okay, I know about that now.
Yeah, I mean, you hit on jump around. That's obviously a great one. We wish we talked about this on a previous show. We wish it was a night game. Like you put your best foot forward on a night game. But yeah, jump around is super cool. And the third quarter, if it's a good game, that's incredible. If you want to stay after the game, the Badgers do something called the fifth quarter, where for a long time Wisconsin wasn't very good at football. Like, and that's stating it kindly. If you go back to the 80s, before Barry Alvarez came in, so the fifth quarter was a way for the fans to stick around and get a little something extra. Like the band stays behind, they play some songs, fight song. Like it's a way where you can just kind of continue enjoying and it's the college football is different, right? The pageantry of it, you can stay and linger in the stadium a little bit longer and just enjoy that a little bit more. So I would certainly say those two, jump around in the fifth quarter, are things to check out.
Well, I gotta say, I don't know if he's responding to me. Okay, so he wants me to ask about restaurants, but I'll be honest with you. I love food, okay? And one of my favorite things to do, I mean, I work out so I can eat. That's really the reality of life. But like when you go to a game in Wisconsin, what are some like must-have things? Because for me, Dreamland barbecue nachos are like second to none. Like when you go to Tuscaloosa, you have to get those. Okay, what are some foods and what are some restaurants for Alabama fans? Unfortunately, I can't go because I was planning to go, and now I'm in fire rookie school, and so I can't go because I couldn't get up there and back before we start back on Monday. But all that to say, what are some must-have stadium food? I know y'all have alcohol now, but I know that's a big deal. And I think y'all just get alcohol like this season, right?
Yeah, this year.
Some food in the stadium and then some restaurants that Bama fans
because we want to know, we want to leave Madison and say, man, that's the best steak or that's the best whatever we've ever eaten. But Hannah, I'm glad you did bring up stadium food too, because I wasn't going to ask that, and that's a big one.
Oh, well, yeah. I want to know.
So, Chris Hart's is a fan of our show. He put up Dottie's. I would say Matthew Anderson as well. Cheese curd. Oh my gosh, cheese. So really quick story on cheese curds. So like people think they know cheese curds. If you're not really from the North and from Wisconsin, like you got to get fried cheese curds right when they're hot and they're incredible. Wisconsin landed a recruit from Florida, Wilnerson Telemock. I interviewed him on my show this year. And I said, man, what was the best part about Madison? He said, oh, they introduced me to this food dish. I said, is it cheese curds? He's like, yes, they are incredible. It's like the best recruiting tool y'all have. So cheese curds, go get some amazing cheese curds. Mickey's Dairy Bar, if you're a breakfast person, it is exactly what it sounds like. And it is ridiculously good. It's hard to get in there at times. Amazing. I would absolutely check that out. I love Scotty's is another really good sports pub, like in that area. We've done a show there. And then I would say there's tons of great beer in Wisconsin. If you're a beer person.
That was the next. What beer? I hear y'all like beer in that state.
We are drinkers.
Cheese curds and beer in the cheese festival.
It's like
we can probably get along. Us Alabamians like our cheese and beer too, buddy.
I feel like we could have fan bases that get along because we don't play each other much. We're not in the same kind of tier. We don't recruit the same people, and we both like beer and cheese. I mean, ultimately,
charcuterie. It's college charcuterie, college football charcuterie.
I would say a couple beer choices. The first one is I'm going to selfishly throw the first one out. Wisconsin this year released an NIL beer. So if y'all want to help, just pitch it in. Like be good tourists.
That's smart.
Get some Varsity Golden Ale from Potosi Brewing. Chris has got it down there. I've been to Potosi, the brewery. It's incredible. It's a small brewery. They rebuilt it. A tiny town of Potosi is built around this brewery. There's like 600 people that live in this town. They are the varsity beer. They are the NIL beer for Wisconsin. So it's 4% Golden Ale. It's incredible. Drink as much as you can so we can get a defensive lineman, please. But there is a local beer, Spotted Cow, Moon Man. You can only get it in Wisconsin.
That's a beer, Spotted Cow.
Yep. You can only get it in Wisconsin. You can't leave the state with it. I mean, people will sneak it out of their car, obviously, but you can't buy it out of Wisconsin.
If you leave the state with it.
Yeah, I mean, you can't buy it outside of
California.
So people will definitely they'll go to Wisconsin, and if they'll bring some cases back for people who want some Spotted Cow, who want some Moon Man. So I would definitely check out any Spotted Cow you can get, Moon Man, and then please Varsity Ale, help our NIL fund.
Do y'all tailgate? Like, is
where do Bama fans need a tailgate on Saturday? That was a good one, Hannah.
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, anywhere around the stadium, you're going to find spots. Go to Union Terrace. That's a great spot. You'll see a lot of good activity there, good food, beer, people. And here's the thing, like, I think most fans are like this. Be a good person, and Wisconsin fans love talking football. They love sharing beer. They love commiserating about the sport we all love. So, like, come in with
cheese curd.
You'll be able to share it with somebody over a Spotted Cow. It'll be incredible.
So I love it.
Talk to people. Like, Wisconsin people love football, and we've been looking forward to playing Alabama for a long time. This is a big game for us. We understand the pedigree of what Crimson Tide football is, and to get the opportunity to host is a big deal. So I hope everybody enjoys it. Obviously, I hope we pull it out and Tyler Van Dyke somehow doesn't throw a turnover. But it's an exciting game for a lot of Badger fans.
And you know what, Ryan? Being up there a couple of years ago, the noise factor is very, very low key, loud. You guys have a real good stadium, and everyone, you're the northern crowd, and they're just sit and clap. No, Wisconsin and Cameron was a different atmosphere than 95% of the schools up north. If they were in the SEC, they would fit right in terms of pageantry, tailgating, fandom, excitement, fan interaction during the game, the crowd noise. I'll tell you guys are A1. Other than Ohio State, you guys, I'll tip the hat off to you guys, because Michigan, they just sit on their hands. They don't even cheer. You guys get loud and crazy.
Yeah. And Ryan, and then we've kept you a little longer than I told you we'd keep you, because the story's been so great. This has been I thank you so much. I hope our fans.
This is an every week occurrence. Don't let him tell you otherwise.
But with that said, with the noise, I want you to tell the Alabama fans, what does a Wisconsin upset look like? Like we did on our show, I'm now let you do this. What does a Wisconsin upset look like, and what does an Alabama win look like?
Yeah, I think for Wisconsin, let me start with the bad one, the Alabama win. I'll finish with the Wisconsin win. Alabama coming in, the script is pretty simple. I think they dominate the trenches. They run the ball with impunity. Wisconsin has continued to struggle there. They continue to do it. So they bring a couple guys up in the box, and that really leaves them open to either Milroe getting on the edge or hitting some deep play action. I think that's the formula, right? Wisconsin just can't compete in the trenches. And if you can't do that, outside of being +3 in the turnover margin or something crazy, you're going to lose games against real programs if you just get bulldozed. So that's the script for Bama. I think defensively, they can also cause a lot of issues for Wisconsin, but that side of the ball almost doesn't matter if you can't stop Bama from just running it down your throat. For Wisconsin, I think it really is, can they scheme up some ways? Because I don't think they can. Wisconsin's played a lot of 2-4-5. They played a lot of 2-down linemen with Peterson or or Leon Lowry, who was a transfer from Syracuse. I don't think they can hold up playing a 2-4-5 against Bama. So what's
or 3-3 stack, or that 3-3 stack.
Right, exactly. Like, what's the adjustment for Wisconsin? And they must have something, because Wisconsin's coaching staff is smart. Luke Fickell's a smart coach. What's the adjustment there? How do they come out and play? Is it bringing a safety down to the box? Is it being really aggressive? And if they do that, and Bama doesn't have a quick counterpunch, we talked about it. If they can get Bama into some 3rd and longs because they're playing the run, and Bama either that protection issue we've talked about on the tackles. I think maybe they can get in Milroe's head a little bit. Then they got the home crowd behind him. We all know that momentum builds. If it's halftime and it's 10-7 and Milroe's throwing a pick and Wisconsin's in it, then it's anybody's game.
Jump around.
That's what I said. When it gets to the fourth quarter against USF, it was 14-13 with 10 minutes to go. We go into Camp Randall 14-13, and it gets to the fourth quarter, and that jump around hits. They're going to be out for blood, and it's a different atmosphere. With that said, what's your prediction for the game?
I mean, I still think Bama's going to win. I
think, come on, dude.
Come on, give us the upset. Give our fans something to get fired up about. We're going to come in there. And
he's a realist. I appreciate it. He's a non-biased analyst, and I appreciate that.
No, he is. That's why we had him on. It's been great. So I didn't mean to cut you off, Ryan.
No, all good. I had somebody in my Discord say, go on the show. JB, if you're watching, said, tell them the SEC's mid, a bunch of overrated teams. We got 7 All-American linemen. No, listen, I think ultimately talent is still talent. And the point I've made is you don't wipe away a decade of being a championship pedigree program because you lose the coach. That pedigree is still there. Wisconsin is working to get into that tier. I do think there's a very real chance Wisconsin plays up this weekend, right? With Georgia on the horizon. This is a bigger game in this moment for Wisconsin at home. And I don't think you're going to see the version of Wisconsin you saw against South Dakota. So I think there's a very good chance Wisconsin plays up and it's a battle, but I think it's one of those games where it feels close into the third quarter and then Wisconsin just kind of gets in the crock pot of Alabama and they get slow cooked.
Yeah.
Do you have a number prediction? Because I do.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a couple score game. Like Alabama wins by 16-17, maybe 38-14, 38.
I'm saying 31-13. So I'm with you on that.
I don't think Bama covers the spread.
You guys got a lot of confidence in Alabama.
I don't think Bama covers this weekend. I think Bama has to fight out a win. I do think it gets to the fourth. I watched USF come into Bryant-Denny and manhandle and win in the trenches. And my boy Smoke was texting me midway through the third quarter saying we're getting worked in the.
I think they overlooked USF. That's my honest analysis of the Bama game. I think Alabama circled Wisconsin for the first real test of the season and overlooked and underprepared against USF. It's very typical. Same thing happened to ULM with Nick Saban his first year. So, I mean, I think they just overlooked them.
You know what, Ann? I'll push back a little bit. I agree with you somewhat, but I don't think they overlooked South Florida. I thought they got outcoached.
I do too.
That coaching staff over there coached their tails off, and the Bama staff did not have an answer for quarterback run, certain blitz packages that was coming against Milroe. They didn't have answers for it. And I'm always going to say, when you go into a game and you're a high-level coach, players going to get you out of it, and the players got Bama out of that with a win.
Mm-hmm.
But coaching can lose you games, and they almost lost that game. You take away that big-time punt return. I got to get to the special teams as well for Wisconsin, that left-footed punter. That could be an issue for a young punt returner that's going to just go unlooked, unscathed. No one's going to pay attention to it. But a left-footed rugby kicker to a high school punt returner and Jalen Milroe can be troublesome. And depending on how that wind is shifting in Wisconsin, that ball dances a lot. And I've been there. I've seen it. So there's an opportunity for a turnover there. Special teams has to play a part. I do believe that if this is old Wisconsin, I would give Wisconsin a little bit more edge.
Mm-hmm.
Just because of on the road, Bama not playing well, getting to the third or fourth quarter with the ability to wear a team down physically and mentally. I thought there was always Wisconsin edge in that state and in that stadium. Mm-hmm. They're playing ball and making football now controllable for everybody else. Anybody can come in and play the way that they're playing now. So that's the reason why I think Bama makes it a 10-point game, but both teams are still learning so much about themselves.
Absolutely.
That it can go either way. But Bama positions have better players that eventually they'll get them out of trouble. And they both have big games next week because USC is playing as good as anybody in the country, and Georgia still is Georgia.
Well, the one advantage for Wisconsin there maybe is they have a bye the next week. So they have Bama, then bye, then USC.
Sure. Yeah.
Which means, by the way, if Wisconsin can pull the upset, you go into that bye week 3-0, beating Bama, heading into USC. That USC game becomes a national game.
Changes your season completely, the complexion.
Mm-hmm. Well, I was going to say, too, you can't The only reason I went, I'm just going with my gut. All right, I want to tell you this right now. My gut
Your
has
gut's
not been
good.
wrong, by the way. My
Your
gut.
gut is
I've
good.
got a good gut.
Her
From all the
gut picked
cheese curds I
Vanderbilt
eat.
to
I'm
beat
just kidding.
Virginia Tech, and her gut will not let us look. She's been fire. I can't
I have been
Firecracker
fired. Okay,
Hannah
but
has been
listen,
on fire.
we forget that in 2015, Alabama only led Wisconsin by 1 touchdown going into halftime. Eventually
Old
pulled it
Wisconsin.
away.
That's old
35-17 was the final score of that game, and Alabama was projected to be a lot better than that. And that was a 2015 team who was led by Blake Sims that went to the playoff. So, it's not like Wisconsin can put them a fight. The only reason I'm saying we're going to do better is because I think that USF game was the perfect, oh crap, we've got to fix crap game before heading into SEC play. And I think Wisconsin is the next bridge for that. I'll tell you this right now. If this Wisconsin game was Georgia, Alabama would get slaughtered. But I think Wisconsin's a good enough team that Alabama can actually beat to kind of build confidence and stuff. So that was why I went 31-13. But I agree with you, Smoke. Everything you said, I agree with.
Yeah, that 2015 game, if you guys remember, who's y'all's running back in that game? Was that Henry? So Wisconsin had a really good safety, a strong safety, Michael Caputo. Very typical Wisconsin Badger safety, like physical in the box, coaching kid, ran a 4.7, but really good in the box safety. He came down and he met Henry in the hole early in that game, and then he went to huddle up with Alabama's offense.
Yeah.
And again, Ryan, I think that we can all say what we want about football.
Yeah.
But what we have learned the last 2 weeks of college football, that NIL era is making the word parity.
We don't know
football. Very evident.
Northern Illinois proved this weekend we don't know shit.
And the fact that that physical football is back, it sucks that Wisconsin does not have that same old standard of play, because they would be right in the ballpark of getting this game close and figuring it out at the end.
I agree. Yeah. I mean, the only team right now in the country that I say has it all together is Texas. 100% going on the road, stomping Michigan in Michigan. I mean, that's a hard stadium to play in.
Do what? If you watch Tennessee play football.
Oh, Tennessee.
I ain't worried about that.
He hasn't answered enough questions for me. But Texas going on the road in Ann Arbor, Michigan, the defending national champs, and putting them to sleep the way they did. I mean, if we're talking about NIL, Steve Sarkisian has put together a master plan for how to recruit well, how to pay well, and how to play well. Oh, that should be a T-shirt. That was pretty good.
That is a bar that you just dropped. Yeah. But I'm also going to say the USC Trojans are playing a different brand defense. D. Lynn is creating some I don't care who you shut out, and not to go off subject. I don't care who you shut out, but when you shut out another team, and then you come back-to-back weeks from playing against LSU, physical, come back the next week, physical, turnover. That USC team is going to be an issue if they just keep getting better week to week. Yep.
That's a great hire for them. Lynn is a great hire.
And yes, I stand corrected. It was Jake Coker, not Blake Sims. I knew that, but I was just passionate.
Out there fact checking.
D. Lynn and Jim Leonard are two of my favorite young guys that are defensive coordinators. That was a miss on Wisconsin not keeping them on.
Leonard was in line for the job. He would have got it if Fickle didn't pop. And then Leonard was going to hire Sean West, who was the offensive coordinator that went to Colorado year one. So you would have saw Wisconsin in an interesting, like if you're a Marvels fan, right? There's the multiverse. It's just different versions of this world. You would have seen a Wisconsin multiverse with Jim Leonard as the head coach. Wisconsin still running some version of the spread under West. It would have been interesting to see.
Defense would have been different though.
The defense would have been different. I don't hate the Fickle move though. I still feel like Fickle was a home run swing for a guy who led Cincinnati to the playoffs. And I think it's too early to tell on Fickle.
Yeah, I think Fickle's a great coach. For me, it's always fit. Rich Rodriguez was a good coach. Fit was bad.
Yep.
Jim Harbaugh is a great fit for Michigan. Could he have gone and played spread ball somewhere else? Bad fit. So to me, it's fit in place, ties it all in.
100%.
And I just think that Fickle is a bad fit for what you want out of Wisconsin. Wisconsin's a nasty, gruddy, thick-ankled offensive lineman, knock your face off, and those guys stink. And your running back is going to go in the top 2 rounds, and they're going to be top 10 running backs in the league, and your defense is going to play hellacious football, and you're going to win games by 3 points. But walking out of there, you're going to feel like dog crap. because you just got the crap kicked out of you in a physical game. That's the Wisconsin I know. Maybe I'm just old, and maybe I think
what I grew up with.
It's time for a change, but sometimes change is not always good.
Yeah.
No, you
right.
know the quarterback's name because you knew the running back's name.
Yep.
But look, Ryan, we have kept you. This is what we're good at. We don't keep time in Alabama. We just run shit. It just rolls.
It's all good.
But it's been great conversation. We would love to try to have you back sometime, maybe in the off season, talk a little college football, and maybe mesh up. But before we let you go and tell people how to find you and what you're on, I do want to say the winner of the title towel tonight was our man Jimmy Clay with the biggest donation. And
Big money, Jimmy. Get to it,
Jimmy
baby.
is the man. So, Jimmy, reach out to Justin Riley at thebamastandard.com. Email him, and we will get your title towel to you so you can be swinging it for the next game. With that said, Ryan, man, I can't thank you enough for coming on tonight. I think I can speak for – I hope I speak for our panelists. This has been a hell of a show. We've really enjoyed it. I feel like it gave our fans something they don't always get, getting across the pond a little bit, across midfield and talk to the other side and get their take. So, again, man, we really appreciate you coming on more than you know, and tell our fans how they can follow you after this.
Yeah. Locked On Badgers on YouTube. Yeah, Ryan and Bucky on Twitter. Pretty simple. If you just Google either of those, you're going to find me. Hey, let's go.
There you go.
Let's eat. I love it. But no, honestly, humbled to be here. I've been on several shows, and this is one of the best panels I've been involved with. The questions are top notch. The presentation's great. I saw one of the Badger fans in there say Bama podcasts have elite segues. So like super appreciative of the opportunity, humbled to be here. Yeah, and would love to, at some point we'll hook up if we're ever in town for the same game, whether it's this year or next year in Tuscaloosa. We'll have a beer.
Hey, we will make that happen, Ryan. Absolutely, buddy. And before we get out of here, we got to give one more shout out to the fan of the night, Jimmy Clay, making it rain.
Just win, baby.
Just win, baby. And I think he's going to take that this weekend. I think it's going to be a fight, man. I think we're going up for a dog fight in Madison. I think it's going to be a hell of a game. I think it's going to be a fun game. So for all you Bama fans up there, look for Ryan out roaming around, or, buy him a beer and a cheese curd.
Let's do it.
A spotted cow has to be.
Spotted cow.
No, he wants an NIL one.
The varsity ale.
Like varsity ale.
Let's level up.
That defensive lineman.
We could use 4 of them. So let's get started.
And also, before I'm going to let my panelists tell you where to find them. We've got this is the opening kick. That means the week's just getting started. Tomorrow night, we've got the flagship show, the Bama Standard, which my man Smoke is on, coming on at 7 Central. And then at 6 Central. Is it 7 Central? Gosh dang these Eastern damn time zones. Smoke, what time do y'all come on? I'm an idiot.
It's 7 Central.
I said it right, 7 Central. And then he's on there with all SEC, Marvin Constant, comedian Steve Brown, Stephen M. Smith, who's got all the insides on Alabama, and, of course, Justin Riley, the man himself, running the ones and twos. But then an hour after that show goes off at 8 Central. Is it 8 or 9? God bless.
So we're on it.
Just stop with the times.
So, Daniel, it's 6 Central, 7 Eastern. But the rest of the world goes in Eastern.
I told Ryan this before. I'm in the Eastern time. I'm so jacked right now. Okay, with my times. It's 6
for
Central
you, it's 7. For us, it's 6.
And 8 Central for the final whistle, which is my other show, which you think this dumbass would know the time to. But that's the one I'm on with Matt Caddell, Chris James, Lushawn Haynes, Graves, Dan James. Holy shit, I'm apparently drunk. All right, that's it. Check us out tomorrow night. We got
and then Wednesday night you can see me again on the Crimson Dynasty.
Wednesday night, I'm going to let Hannah tell the time because I'm not good at it.
Yes, 6:30. And now you got me questioning my time. It's 6:30. Yes, 6:30 Central Time. Shishi, Hannah, me, and Dan are on there. Crimson Dynasty, 6:30 to 7:30, and then we'll be back Friday at 7 Central. And it's just 7 to whenever we get done ish.
And we say 30 minutes, but we're obviously really bad at that. That's going to be the red zone. And also on Wednesday nights after the Crimson Dynasty, George Teague has Teague's Take. He breaks down game film. If you want the real X's and O's, go get it from the guy that played with the Dallas Cowboys and knows some damn football, because Teague's the man. And then on Saturday night after the game, we'll be here for a post-game show. And then Sunday night, we're right back at you with Sunday Night Talking Bama with Josh Tucker and the boys. So we've got a full lineup. Again, Ryan, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, man. And Smoke, Hannah, how can we find you? And then we will cut this thing out.
Well, you can find me at the next Cheese Festival up in Green Bay.
Let's go.
I've actually been around when one of those going on. Good time.
That's awesome.
You can find me on X and Instagram at Coach GV Dixon. Look me up. I always have some good content. You might catch me at the Cheese Festival. Not drinking any spotted cow. I can't participate in the NIL deal because if you're spending on the defensive lineman, I don't like it. Spending on the quarterback, they make actual games happen. But that's just my take on it.
Well, you can find me on X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it, depending, when you had the app. At the UA Sign Girl. You can find me on Facebook as well at the UA Sign Girl. And you know what I should do? The Foodie and me should start a YouTube channel where I go to every Division I college football stadium and get a taste and a taste and a sip around the stadium.
Well, the first thing you can do is get Bryant Denny to bring back the actual damn Denny dog, not this fake one that's called the Denny dog.
I know. I was very displeased.
That's a whole nother rant we'll get on in another day, Ryan, because we used to have this Denny dog that had this weird concoction of mustard kept up in kraut.
It was weird.
They kept in a vat under the stadium all year for fermentation, only to be brought out on game day for this perfect hot dog. And we haven't won a national title since they took it away.
Yep.
So that's the reason why they can't get a yard.
Clearly connected.
All right, got it. Because of the hot dogs that's not served right. Gotcha.
Crimsonettes will be cheering on Bama at Camp Randall. You daggum right. Love them Crimsonettes. I gave them a shout out on our show Friday. My wife was one of those. I'm a very, very partial to those lovely ladies.
Which, by the way, you took a picture with my friend's daughter. I'm like, wait, my brain just kind of went.
Ayana?
Yes, I used to go to church.
Grew up in my house.
Well, I literally used to go to church with them when I was a student at
You went to Capstone.
Yes.
We'll talking actually. I'm Daniel Petty. You can catch me all over this network. I obviously don't know the damn times I'm on it, but I'm on it. Check us out Friday night, 7:00. Check Ryan out. Follow him. We appreciate y'all coming out on this Monday. And look, it's game week. Let's roll.
Roll Tide.
Roll Tide. Go back.
That's the bottom line.
On Wisconsin?
Why?
I don't know if I was allowed to say it.
Stone Cold said so.